Welcome to LawNext. This is Bob Ambrogi, and this is another in a continuing series of interviews I'm doing right here on the conference floor at the Clio Cloud Conference in Nashville. And I've been speaking with various Clio executives as well as various other attendees and exhibitors and other people at the conference. And I am now joined by Ronnie Gurion, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Clio. Ronnie, welcome.
Great to be here, Bob.
Nice to see you. So you are pretty new to Clio, right? When did you join with Clio?
Today is actually my 1-year anniversary.
Today's your 1-year anniversary. Awesome. And you came out of a background not at all connected to legal, right? What were you doing before you came to Clio?
Yeah, that's right. This is my first foray into the legal tech world. Immediately before Clio, I was the general manager and head of Uber for Business.
So Uber for Business is Uber, but business deals, basically, I suppose.
Yeah, basically it's a part of Uber that is trying to make its products and services available to any organization or entity in the world who would want to use Uber for business purposes. So anywhere from companies, hospitals. I spoke with a judge here who said his judge actually had an Uber for Business account, and not-for-profits. So a very wide assortment of customers. Yeah,
and what was your background before that?
I spent a lot of time in the travel industry. I worked at Expedia. I built out the B2B business at Orbitz.
Okay, so you must have known Mark Britton.
Yeah, Mark Britton was on the board at Orbitz, and that's how I kind of became aware of Clio. And
Who's also on the board of Clio, right?
And founder of Avo. So he was my kind of connection to meet Jack and start talking to Clio. But my background is really in online travel and building up B2B businesses specifically within Expedia and within Orbitz. I was president of that division at Orbitz, and we established and really built a very large business where we provided travel services to all sorts of companies, be it an airline, a credit card company, or a small business site who wanted to have their own travel offering. And then I worked at Airbnb and Uber when I moved out to San Francisco. So for consumer companies, but always with a very strong B2B background.
Yeah. When you found out about this opportunity at Clio, what attracted you to moving to this company, or even to this industry?
Yeah. Well, as I dug in, I had never heard of Clio, and as I actually reached out to a friend of mine. I had one or two other offers that I was considering taking, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should talk to Mark Britton. There's this really cool company, and they might have a need for someone with your background." So I kind of all of a sudden was talking to Clio and kind of comparing it to a couple of these other opportunities. And as I dug in, I just really was attracted to a lot of things. I thought the product was super interesting. Vertical SaaS was an area that I was particularly interested in. I think has just a lot of potential, but also a lot of strategic and intellectual interest to me. When you think about the path for vertical SaaS to really come in and establish itself within an industry, provide a lot of value, and then take it to that next stage. And Clio, I thought, was at a very interesting time where it had grown so significantly with its initial kind of one or two products. But in order to really continue to take the company to the next level, we were going to have to get more international. We were going to have to get more products into the fold and really think about how we scale and diversify the business. And then we were going to have to get better at everything that we had been doing. And obviously the team had done a great job building it to its current iteration, but we also knew we needed to just get more efficient and get more high quality in a lot of different areas. And so that's a lot of what I think I bring in terms of my background, is having operated at that scale and built some really significant business units within Uber, within Orbitz. We had, in one case, 30x growth, in the other case, about 6 or 7x growth. So very high. Those were big businesses, but the businesses that I was building were kind of nascent upstart businesses within these big global companies. So I thought the stage of Clio was very interesting, and then some of the challenges of what we would want to work on as a team really appealed to me. And then, I thought it was a very attractive business when I dug in and looked at our unit economics and margins and a lot of the profiles of SaaS, especially compared to some of the industries that I'd worked in, which is like at Uber, it's a very successful consumer business, but it's still questionable in terms of its long-term profitability. And so I was as I was thinking about new opportunities, I was very focused on making sure I joined a company that had a very healthy business profile as well.
Yeah. Did you see parallels at all between the industries that you worked in before and what Clio is doing?
Yes and no. Like, for instance, at Uber for Business, the challenge we had is everybody's a potential customer. Right? We sold transportation, and then we brought Uber for, Eats for Business. As Uber Eats became very, very big, we established Eats for Business, so allow companies and organizations to use Eats for scale as well at a corporate level. And so if you think about transportation and food, pretty existential needs.
Right.
And so it's from a go-to-market and strategy perspective there, it's almost everybody in the world is literally your potential customer.
Right.
So how do you get the maximum efficiency and focus from your marketing, from your go-to-market efforts, and where should you focus?
Yeah, I suppose the same is true for travel and as well. Right?
And vertical SaaS is obviously a very different proposition. You have to be, you're hyper-focused on serving a very specific vertical, a very specific type of customer. But there it's about serving that customer with an extraordinarily high-quality product because you are so essential to what they do. Whereas Uber for Business was universal, but companies would be fine if they didn't have an Uber for Business account. So it was a nice-to-have in many cases. It wasn't an existential need, where I think vertical SaaS and operating system for legal is becoming more of a really essential way that firms need to manage their practices. And then it's about figuring out how you layer on top of that with additional products and services to continue to provide more and more value. So there were parallels, but also some really interesting differences. I think the parallels were we were in hyper-growth mode. We were doing a lot of international expansion. We were bringing new products to market to diversify. And we were refining and really scaling out a much more sophisticated and scale go-to-market and kind of marketing operation. And I think that's some of the things that I think we've done a very good job at Clio historically, but there's always room for improvement, and the competition is always getting higher as well, so you've got to continue to up your game there.
Yeah, well, I think you said that one of the opportunities that appealed to you about Clio was this challenge of growing its market, and you mentioned international and more products.
Yep.
Have you made progress on that over the past year? What have you done towards growing the company?
Yeah, we have made progress. We have made some good progress with our existing international efforts. Just today, for instance, we brought ClioCon to Europe for the first time. So Colin, who runs the international business for us, and his team there have put on a local event in London to allow a bunch of local customers to live stream some of the sessions here. And I think that's like a small step, but a great step. And I think it's just a small symbol of the type of increased investment we're making. And we're looking at other markets as well to expand into. I think we'll be thoughtful and very prudent there. I've worked at some of the most global companies in the world, at Airbnb and at Uber, that were in over 100 countries, and I know that it's not easy, and so you've got to be very deliberate and very thoughtful. But I do think there's a big opportunity for Clio. We have organically users in over 100 countries that kind of just come to our website, put down their credit card, and use our product. And so we have some good data around where we think there's latent demand and what that looks like. And so I think that speaks to the need for a product like Clio on a more global basis. So that's one of the things that we've made some progress on. And then in terms of additional products, we've launched our own payments offering, which has gone very well, and where I spend a lot of my time actually. We've hired a very strong executive named Ben Bordeaux. I'm not sure if you're speaking with him, who's our VP of payments, comes with a deep financial services background. And so we think about payments as the first of hopefully a string of financial products, but right now we're focused on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a great believer in the importance of payments to law practice, and I think it's also been something that's kind of shaped the law practice management software market over the past couple of years as we've seen a number of companies, a number of consolidations which larger umbrella entities are buying up payment solutions and law practice management solutions, or in the case of my case, the payment solution is buying up the law practice management solution. I mean, do you think that payments is kind of a factor in driving this market right now?
I guess it depends on what you mean by driving it.
Well, I don't. Yeah. Well, I'll say. Well, you can answer, but I mean, I don't mean that payments is the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail, however that goes. I mean, that it's become such a critical factor that it's been shaping a lot of these consolidations and stuff that have been happening. Because there seems to be a common thread of payments. Every time you look at somebody getting acquired or whatever, they've either got a payments platform or they're building a payments platform or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at vertical SaaS in general, not just in legal, there's been a multi-year trend creating a more integrated payments, and in some cases even broader financial services capabilities, and vertical SaaS software. And I think that is indicative of the value that it brings to its end customer, right? Because if you can have a more integrated experience, a more seamless experience, use fewer tools, it's just going to allow everybody to be more efficient. And so I think what you're seeing is a macro trend across many different industries where embedded fintech and integrated software and payments is taking more and more of the wallet share and market share. And I think that's going to continue. And I think that's very much what we believe, and kind of reason why we launched our own payments offering. And we couldn't be more pleased with kind of the way it's going so far.
Yeah. Are you? Jack announced this morning at his keynote some enhancements to the payment to Clio payments. Are you satisfied with the state of that product now, or what else are you hoping to do to kind of build that out and make it a more robust offering?
Well, I guess that's a hard question because we're never satisfied.
Yeah.
Do we think it's a very good market-leading product? Yeah, we do. And I think customers are demonstrating that with the amount of new customers and migrations that we're seeing and the feedback we're getting. So we feel very good about the product, but I think Jack at his core is a product person, right? And Clio at its core is a product-oriented company. We've not... almost the vast majority of our revenue is, internally developed. It's not a type of company that just bolts on a whole bunch of, acquired entities. And so, in order to do that, you have to be exceptional at building high quality, leading products. And so, I think we've done that with our payments product over the last year. But there's certainly a lot of things that we want to continue to bring to that product as well, just to make it even better. And so that's where we've put a lot of resources into payments over the last year, and we'll kind of keep those folks plugging away to continue to bring we think will be the best payments product in the market.
Yeah, I know Clio's launched an investment arm and has been making investments in legal tech companies. My understanding is you're involved in that.
Yeah.
So, what kinds of companies are interesting to you? What kinds of companies are you looking to invest in?
Well, I'm not as directly involved as our corp dev team and some others. I do get involved, and I think anytime you're looking at an investment, I mean, obviously we look for companies that amplify our core product and kind of strategic mission. So the better it serves our customer base and our product offerings, the more relevant it is. We look for companies that we think have the potential to be of meaningful scale and really be impactful to the industry. I mean, those are some of the criteria we look at. But with investments, it's sometimes it's kind of like it when you see it, right? You come across companies, you have a belief in a team, a belief in a founder. You learn people who are attacking a problem that maybe you hadn't thought about, or they're taking a novel approach to it. And I think we look for that true innovation, and then can they execute? Are they the type of team that we think has the kind of special DNA to really be successful? And that's kind of what we're looking for. Just like kind of general, I think what many investors are looking for. But that link back to our core mission and our core product is I guess the unique flavor for us as well.
Yeah. You stepped into this role a year ago, as you said, and replaced or succeeded somebody who had been COO for a number of years at Clio. And of course, needless to say, you came here in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges that you faced coming into the job at the time that you did?
Well, yeah, I remember thinking a couple years ago, like when the pandemic first hit, and the job market was crazy, right? People kept leaving jobs. I was at Uber. We hired a lot of people. People kept leaving, and I was kind of taken aback. I was like, why would you want to switch roles in a fully remote world during this pandemic? It seemed kind of crazy to me. But then as the pandemic obviously went further and further, it became more normal. But yeah, it was certainly a daunting thought to kind of come in, especially as a role like this where you have such a broad mandate and do it on a fully remote basis. And so I really focused a lot on just getting to know the team, going deep with the product and digging in. My nature is to get quite detail oriented and dig in as much as I can. That's how I think successful executives can need to operate. And so that was daunting. The business challenges, it's not like you were going into a turnaround situation by any means. Like a lot of times when you get a call from a recruiter, it's like, hey, we need to revamp the business. And this was very fortunately nothing like that. It was a business that was performing really, really well. And it was more around how do we just maintain and even accelerate. And so there was nothing that was like overly daunting other than the normal things of having to learn a new company, remote, and then the industry for me. That obviously has a learning curve. It's not as intuitive as like when you join Airbnb or something like that. As a consumer, you've used the product, you have a fairly easy grasp of some of those issues. You have to learn the details, of course, behind the scenes. But this was a new vertical and a new industry. Both my brothers are lawyers, so I have some familiarity here, but that's quite different than working in the industry. And so that's been a learning curve and continues to be, which is why it's great to be here at ClioCon, just meeting a lot of partners in person, walking the floor, and just continuing to build up that industry knowledge.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a turnaround situation, but you did come in at a time when the company was anticipating the possibility of an IPO. And the past year, I assume, has put put that on the back burner, at least in terms of thinking about that. But what are the prospects going forward for the company, either going through an IPO or seeking further investment?
Well, I would say, first of all, I don't think we comment on things like that, and whatever Kurt, our CFO, said when you talk to him, I would kind of defer to. But in general, like what I'm focused on and what I think the team is focused on, and I've worked at a couple of companies that have gone public while I was there, and I think the consistent way that companies approach it is we're just going to put our heads down, execute, and we can't predict the future, and what we can control is our destiny if we execute well and build the best company possible, and then that just gives us maximum options to do whatever path we choose to do. And I know that's what I'm focused on every day. I don't really spend any time thinking about that. Markets are the markets, and I think the good news is we have a lot of control over our destiny, and time will tell kind of what the next step may or may not be for Clio, but nothing to share, or that's how I think about it just personally. Is our job is just to build the right company and then maximize all the options that we can control our own path.
Has there been anything in particular over this year that has surprised you, either about Clio or about the legal market more broadly?
I had heard Clio's the leading company and is a great brand and product, and I had enough research to kind of know that was true. I think I didn't quite grasp how much our clients rely on us and how many of our clients really, I don't want to say love, but I would say, whatever, maybe like there's a lot of passion and a lot of people who have such a strong affinity for our Clio, and that's not that easy to find in technology, right? So our NPS is super high, our retention is super high, and that customer affinity is something which is really unique. So it's a really special company. I think Jack and the team who've been here for a long time have through their high quality product work, great brand and marketing and great customer advocacy, great customer support investment, it's years and years of investment to get it to where it is. And so that was a surprise to me. I think I didn't quite understand and I generally knew this, but I didn't quite understand how much of the market was like solo and kind of very small, like micro SMB. And that's been quite interesting to think about. What does that mean in terms of how we market and go and structure our sales teams and things like that. So those are some kind of, I think, unique aspects of Clio, but they've been, interesting things to kind of learn about.
Yeah. Although now that you say that, I mean, maybe there are similarities between going after people who need rides and small lawyers and small practices who need practice support software. But anything else that you're working on these days, or anything else that you've got your eyes on that particularly interested in?
We're kind of in the middle of our strategic planning efforts for next year. I think one of the good things is whenever you go through an exercise like that, if a lot of what you're going to set yourself up to do next year is very consistent with what you're working on this year, you feel good, because a lot of these strategies are going to be, and key initiatives are multi-year in nature. So I feel good about what we put in place this past year in 2022. We're finalizing some of the details around our strategic planning for next year, but overall, I think you'll see a lot of consistency in terms of just amplifying a lot of the areas that Jack talked about today, that I think are going to unlock that next wave of growth for us. So that's one of the main things I'm working on. But building out a great team. We've hired a lot of really strong leaders. Our head of a new SVP of sales. I just have found over the last year we've also been able to recruit some really world-class executives to take on new responsibilities with some new functions, or as certain roles became available. And I think that starts to snowball, because great talent wants to recognize and wants to follow and work with other great talent. And so that's been a great, not a surprise, but just a great thing to see is our ability to recruit really high caliber talent to take us to the next level.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Well, Ronnie, thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time out of this busy conference to sit and talk with me here.
Okay, great. Nice to chat with you today, Bob.